It is said that energy is neither created nor destroyed. And just the other day I had this really far out image in my mind, this sort of vision of how what we are is like a cup of water. And you can think of when we have different habits, when we have different behavioral patterns, those represent themselves as sort of like ice cubes in the cup of water that we are. And the thing about ice cubes in water is that even if there's ice cubes in the water, when that ice cube melts, maybe at first glance you'd think that the volume of water would rise, but when the ice cubes melt, the volume of water remains the same. So the water in the cup of you is already displaced to its maximum volume by the ice cubes that are made by your different behaviors. And whether those behaviors stay as ice cubes, stay in those forms of behavior, or if they transform into water, your volume stays the same. So within you is already the sum capacity of all the energy that you want and that you don't want. It's already all within you. It's really a matter of moving things around. It's a matter of rearranging the ice cubes in the water of your being. It's kind of like a choppy vision, but essentially what I was realizing is that all of the energy is already within you. But when you are deficient in certain areas of your life, maybe an area of creativity or motivation or happiness or a feeling of meaning or of purpose or drive or whatever it is, or whatever, like relationship skills or something, or making money or starting a business or whatever the hell your thing is that you feel deficient in, it could be because that energy is being offset and misplaced by a behavioral pattern or a habit that you have. And that's really what I want to talk about here in this video, is that your habits, moreover your addictions, are stealing your energy. Your addictions are holding your attention and therefore consuming such a degree of your attention, which, were you to let go of that addiction, were you to become free and liberated from that addiction, the energy that you've been pouring into that addiction, into that habit, would be liberated. It would become available to you. And see, that's kind of what I was pointing to in that cup of water with ice cubes analogy, is that you are a cup of water full of ice cubes of your addiction and habits and all that stuff. And when those ice cubes melt, they return to the base energy of just the water of your being. It becomes available potential energy to you. But when it's in the form of an ice cube, it's solidified. It's energy that's locked within itself. And although your volume still remains the same, whether you have the addictions to those things crystallized as an ice cube or not, it's still locked. The energy is locked within those different habits. I really hope that makes sense. And, the way that I've experienced addiction in my life, it's not nowhere near as intense as it has been for people in my immediate life and people in the world being addicted to really hardcore substances or really hardcore activities and things that they do. But what I have been addicted to in my life are two main things, and that was cannabis and nicotine, vaping. Now, the thing is with addiction, when you don't have a deep enough incentive to let something go, there's not a good enough emotional payoff to let it go. You're not going to give it up because there's no reason to give it up. It would only, in your immediate perception of it, it would only result in lack. It would only be a negative to let go of this thing, because that's what substances do. They act like an immediate, it's like a short candy bar now. It's an immediate emotional fulfillment. And so there's two really drastically different examples here for me being cannabis and nicotine, where cannabis, I had been smoking for 9 years straight, and then I took a 3-day break, back in 2021, I think it was. And it wasn't a big deal at all. I traveled somewhere where cannabis was illegal, so I was like, screw it, I just won't smoke. You know, it's no big deal. It's not a physical withdrawal, you know what I'm saying? So after the 3 days is up, I came back home and I took a huge bong rip, which I was very used to and accustomed to doing for 9 years. And I got so high, like I'm talking so like drastically, existentially high, that I was like, this is too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy. The level of where I was in my mind, I could compare to places I've been with psychedelic chemicals. And it blew me away, to say the least. So the next day, I was like, that was crazy. I'm gonna smoke again, and if I get that high again, I can't smoke weed anymore like I used to. I won't be able to smoke weed regularly. So I smoked again, and I got that high again, and I was like, okay, I can't do this every day. So I didn't want to keep smoking because I had a good enough reason to not smoke. I don't want to be that high. It's not like how it used to be. So although it was like emotionally a little bit rough to let go of it because it's like I enjoyed the ritual of smoking, it was easy to let go of because I had a really good reason to let go of it. Now, nicotine on the other hand, I had been vaping, using a vape since I was like 16 years old. I'm 24 now. I haven't smoked nicotine. It's actually been a year. Like this month is a year since stopping vaping. But I started vaping nicotine around 16 years old, and I was hooked immediately. And I did it all the way up until last year. Your boy Northwood Shaman's lung collapsed. And I thought it was just like, I thought I was just bloated. You know, I was experiencing these certain symptoms, and I was like, I'm probably just bloated. I'm gonna go to the doctor though to check it out. And they do an x-ray and they say, hey man, your lung is collapsed. You have to go to the ER because this can be life-threatening. I was like, okay, that's good enough incentive for me to not want to vape anymore because, you know, vaping, lungs, it's probably what caused it. You know? And vaping is so new that my generation, I mean everybody that's vaping is like the guinea pigs of what's gonna happen in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from vaping chronically. You know? So my lung collapsed, I was like, alright, I'm gonna stop vaping. You know what? And it wasn't hard to stop. And the reason it wasn't hard to stop was because I would rather be alive and healthy than getting head buzzes every 20, 30 minutes. You know? So the idea is to understand that it's better to stop. There's a better emotional payoff in stopping than there is in continuing to use it. It's the short candy bar now to keep vaping, but it's the long candy bar later, the big candy bar later, if you stop vaping. Now this is just my personal experience with cannabis and nicotine. And what I realized, what I gathered when I stopped vaping, because vaping was the one that I didn't really want to stop. I was like, damn, bruh, you know what I'm saying? But I was like, I'm more so focused on my health than ripping my vape. So I let it go. And what happened was there was a liberation of energy. The energy that I suddenly saw, you know, the ice cube in my cup of water, that particular ice cube was the addicted to nicotine ice cube. When I gave up vaping, that ice cube melted, and the energy that was crystallized in that addiction was available to me again. And see, what I realized was how limiting and imprisoning addiction is. I realized that, you know, if you vape, if you're addicted to nicotine or the little Zin pouches or whatever the hell it is, you're well aware that you can't even go to the gas station without your vape. You can't even go on a walk in the woods without your vape. If you're at work and you run out of juice or you run out of pouches, it's a no bueno. It's not really a fun day anymore. Your happiness, your well-being is dependent upon having that thing that you're addicted to, which is a complete imprisonment. Now we say, no, it's not that big of a deal. And the reason we say that is not only because we're not stopping, but because it's an easy addiction to feed. It's easy to run to the store real quick and get some more juice or get some more pouches. It's easy to, when we're about to run out, we re-up and get more so that we never face a moment without it. But if it's not a big deal, I challenge you stop for a week. Stop for a month. You hear the big one-liner in the addiction community of cannabis, nicotine, alcohol, all these things, even worse, more intense substances. They say, I could stop if I wanted to, but I just don't want to. So why would I stop? That is the biggest load of shit going when it comes to addiction. You know? I challenge you to stop. I challenge you to try it out. Put the joint down. Put the vape down. Put the alcohol down for a month. You could stop if you wanted, okay? So try it out. I know you don't want to. That's kind of the defining factor of what addiction is. So if you've convinced yourself you're not addicted, give it up. Give it up. Now, I got another really interesting story to share with you in regard to being addicted. So I stopped vaping a year ago, February of last year. I think it was probably 2-3 months after I quit vaping. I hadn't used any nicotine at all. I was going to smoke DMT. I was going to do a little mini DMT ceremony. And I have hape, which is a South American tradition. It's a tobacco-based product that you blow up your nose. It's a form of snuff. Now, without even this hape is traditionally used as a means of grounding before ayahuasca ceremonies down in South American shamanism. I had DMT. I wanted to do DMT. I also had hape. Guys, without even thinking about it, I sat down and I said, I'm gonna do some hape to ground myself before this DMT ceremony. So I sat down, I lit my Palo Santo, I got all centered and focused on my intention, and I ingested the hape. I blew the hape up my nose. And the second I blew that hape, that tobacco powder up my nose, I realized, oh my God, this is a tobacco-based product, and I haven't used tobacco in months. And I proceeded to get the biggest head buzz probably ever. It was very intense, and it was very powerful. Now, to keep things short, that accidental ingestion of tobacco birthed a journey of healing my relationship to nicotine and tobacco through the use of hape that has come all the way up until literally a week ago. And what inspired this video that I'm sharing right now is not only quitting vaping, but I got sort of addicted to the hape. And I was under the impression, in the same way we say, I'm not addicted, you know, I just like doing it. I said, I'm healing my relationship to mapacho. That was what I said. But it got to the point where I was just kind of sitting down and blowing this tobacco powder up my nose and getting a fat buzz. And what happened was it got to the point where when I would run out of the hape, I would get nervous. I would get anxious. I would think, oh no, I'm out. And I would do it like 3 times a day or so. Not chronically, but enough to the point where when I started to run out of it, I would go online and buy more of it so that I didn't have a period of time where I was without it. And guys, when I experienced that anxiety, that panic of, oh no, I'm running out of it, not only did I feel the withdrawal of not having it, but I also felt the imprisonment of addiction. And what this resulted in, you know, I would do little breaks where I would take a week-long break or a 2-week-long break, and then I would get it again. And it was like I was trying to prove to myself I'm not addicted. I can let it go, you know, because I don't want to be reliant. I don't want to be dependent on something. And just about a week ago, I was running out of the hape, and I started to get that anxiety. Oh no, I need to get more. And then I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know? I'm not going to let my happiness and well-being be dependent on this tobacco nose powder. I realized it so clearly. I was like, I'm not going down this road. You know what I'm saying? So I said, what's going to happen is I'm not going to do this for the next at least 2 months. You know? And the body starts feeling all these withdrawals, you know, and what I realized was the withdrawal symptoms, at least for me associated with nicotine, of wanting the hape and all this kind of stuff. It's almost like those withdrawals are your body throwing a tantrum like a child, saying, I want the immediate gratification now. Give me the immediate gratification now. It gives me a hard time. My body and the withdrawals and the craving is giving me a hard time. And me, as the sort of sovereign parent of my own mind and body, is saying, listen, if you're gonna bitch and moan because you don't have this tobacco nose powder, we're not gonna do it. We're done with it. If you're gonna complain the second it's about to disappear, we're done, bro. Like, you can scream and wiggle and squirm all you want. We're not gonna get accustomed to the immediate gratification of nicotine. I literally told this to myself, my own mind and body. I felt the cravings, in the first 2 days of not having it. And I said, listen, like, you did this to yourself. You did this to yourself. You knew what you were doing. You knew you were kind of slipping into this sort of addiction with the hape and sort of masking it behind a spiritual intention. And I must preface real quick that hape is incredible. And it very much so has healed my relationship with tobacco. But also, it's addictive to me. I'm inclined, I'm prone to addiction with tobacco. And I realized this. And I felt the anxiety of not having it anymore. And I said, no, we're not going down this road. So I let it go. I'm not doing it anymore. And the body sort of complains about it. It says, I want my hape, I want my nose powder, man. I want my vape, I want my booze, I want my weed, I want my drugs. I want my junk food, I want my craving, I want my immediate gratification. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And what we need to realize, let me tell you this, if you're listening right now, the emotional payoff that you will get from saying no to your cravings because you respect your mental and physical health is so much greater than the short-lived emotional gratification, dopamine hit that you'll get from taking and engaging in your addiction once again. Whether it's hitting the joint or hitting your vape or having another beer or masturbating or going to McDonald's or shopping, buying another thing on Amazon. This embodies all form of addiction. The sort of thing that it impedes on your well-being. And your well-being gets diverted, your energy, the water of your cup of life gets crystallized into these ice cube habits, these toxic behaviors, where that ice cube, which is the same energy of you, the water, is no longer available to you because it's been solidified in this crystallized negative habit. And when you let go of the addiction, when you let go of the thing, eventually, that energy is liberated and returned to you. And here's the really interesting part, is that when you let go of that addiction, like really let go of it, not let go of it for 2 weeks because you're trying to prove to yourself that you're not addicted, but really let go of it, that energy returns to you, and now you have this surplus of energy that you didn't know was available to you because it's been locked inside of that habit for so long. So I do want to say, be careful at this point, because when that energy becomes liberated and is available to you again, it can get quickly diverted into another negative habit, another addiction. That ice cube that melted and was returned to you can very quickly re-solidify and re-freeze into a different ice cube where that energy is no longer available to you again because it's been solidified into this other toxic addiction. So when that energy is returned to you, when the motivation and the passion and the feeling of willpower and strength and courage of letting go of your addiction, when you get that energy, be careful what you do with it. Intend to direct that energy in a way more oriented towards bettering yourself, because it will blow you away. when I let go of nicotine, vaping initially, I was mind blown. I was like, wow, dude, like I'm not dependent on this substance. And it was so liberating. And I can't really name where it directed itself. I'd say it directed itself more so towards self-healing, growth, self-growth and self-transformation. I didn't direct it. It didn't flip over into this other negative area. But then, I accidentally did the hot bay and I found myself sort of starting to, that water of my being started to kind of freeze into an ice cube of tobacco addiction yet again, but I nipped it at the bud. I said, no, we're not going down this road. I'm letting this go because I value and honor my independent well-being more than I do of being dependent on this substance. Now, I was just going to say I don't understand why we get ourselves addicted to all these things, but you know what? I do. And it's because we haven't developed the tools to uplift ourselves. So what we do is we go out and we do drugs. We go out and we eat junk food. We go out and we binge watch TV. Or we go out and we shop and buy all this stuff we don't need. Or we go out and we just hook up with people, hookup culture. We don't know how to give ourselves the permission of happiness, of joy, of drive, of courage, of confidence, of satisfaction. So we end up using all these external things as crutches, and then we get addicted to them because they're the only things that give us the feeling we're looking for. And this results in our downfall. We're eating a bunch of short candy bars, immediate emotional payoff, dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, not realizing that it's to our detriment. There is so much energy within you right now that were you to let go of those addictions would absolutely transform your life. Do you remember learning about those things called stem cells? It's a kind of cell that it's like in a quantum state, a quantum biological state where it possesses the ability to be any cell. It could be an eye cell, it could be a skin cell, it could be a brain cell, it could be a hair cell. The stem cell possesses the ability to become any kind of cell. That is the very same thing with the energy that is liberated when you let go of your addictions. Suddenly all this energy is available to you, and that energy is available in the form of stem cell energy, where now it could become, you could divert it into an area that's good and beneficial, or you could divert it into an area that turns out to be another addiction, another bad habit. But that points to the power of letting go of our toxic addictions, is that we end up with this energy that we have the ability to point in a given direction. It's like focusing a laser beam, It's like, remember in physics class, the potential energy? As you let go, one by one by one by one, of these things that are imprisoning, as you let go of that vape, as you let go of that junk food and start eating more healthy, as you stop buying all this stuff you don't need, all the examples of our addictions, every time you let go of that stuff, it's increasing this potential energy. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, potential energy is like when a roller coaster goes up and it's at that top point, it possesses what's called potential energy, where it has the potential to absolutely soar down that drop. That's the state that we find ourselves in as we continuously let go of things that no longer serve us. But what it takes is the ability to recognize that it's no longer serving us. Recognize that it's not good for us. Recognize that it's limiting and imprisoning us. And as you let go of that stuff, the energy is returned to you. That ice cube, trapped energy, melts and is returned to the water of your being. And so it's like this increasing potential where the ability to create, the ability to change, the ability to grow, the ability to transform yourself becomes increasingly greater every time you let go. Every time you let go, you level up. Every time there are so many unconscious habits that run our life, and they're not good. They're not out for our best interest. They're immediate gratification habits. Scrolling. Jesus, the scrolling. All the examples. Hitting the vape. Hitting the joint. Cracking a beer at the end of work. Shopping. Dating. Whatever your thing is. Junk food. We're not even present. It's just happening. It's just happening because we don't know how to get pleasure. We don't know how to be happy and content and fulfilled. But there's this sort of automated autopilot process of hitting my vape and eating junk food and scrolling and dating and shopping and all this stuff that seems like it gives me this rush of pleasure and dopamine and stuff. So I'm going to just kind of like let loose and surrender into the toxic autopilot of my, lustful dopamine seeking addictions and just like not even try anymore. These unconscious habits run our life. And it was Carl Jung who said, you don't transform your life by avoiding the negative, by avoiding the darkness. You transform your life by bringing the darkness into the light. So what that means is realizing, hey man, I'm addicted to shit. I'm addicted to things that aren't good for me. And then once you realize that, there's this process of guilt in doing it. And then you start to crave it again. And you shouldn't. You kind of know it's this whisper like, hey man, I don't know if you should. But your desire, your craving for that immediate gratification is so great that you say, screw the guilt. I know it's bad for me, but I don't care. I want to feel good now. And you do it again. And then you're in guilt. And then you're more addicted. And it's this cycle. It's this imprisonment. It's a prison, guys. It's a prison. I'm telling you, you don't want to be in that prison. And sometimes it's coming out of that prison that you realize that. It's only once you're free from that prison that you realize, holy shit, I didn't want to be in there. Why was I living my life in there? Why was I happy in my little prison cell? It's like decorating your prison cell and putting little tapestries up and candles and hanging little chandeliers. You're decorating your hell. You're romanticizing your negative habits. You know what I'm saying? And I'm basically, I completely live sober. I don't drink. I'll drink alcohol very occasionally, once a month or something like that. But I don't use cannabis. I don't take psychedelics recreationally. I don't use nicotine. I don't do drugs. I don't use substances. So I'm sober. And, I had this group of friends a while ago, which I don't really associate that much with anymore, interestingly enough. And they were talking about, going out to the bar and drinking and all this stuff. And, it got brought up somehow that I don't use substances, I don't drink and all this kind of stuff. And this one person made fun of that. Like, you're just out here raw dogging life, man. Like, kind of calling me boring. And I admit, that's a funny ass joke. That's funny. I get it. But honestly, there's a more interesting tone to that, to me, which points to the idea that it's cool to not live in reality. Moreover, it's lame to just raw dog reality. They're laughing at me because I don't numb myself with substances, And it was just really interesting seeing the kind of mentality around drinking and smoking weed and nicotine and cigarettes and all this kind of stuff. It's far out. And definitely when you let go, in addiction counseling and this kind of stuff, when you let go of something, when you let go of your addiction, your old friend group goes away, bro. Because not only do they not like you anymore because you're a sort of example of what they, in the way back, wish they could be, but also you don't want to associate yourselves with them anymore because they're still in that lower vibration. They're not doing that. You're not doing that shit anymore. So there's nothing tying you to them. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that's how it works. When you let go of shit, you're gonna change. Your energy is in a completely different constellation. So who you associate yourself with is gonna change. And also, how you spend your time is going to change. Because like I was saying, when you let go of the addiction, the energy is available to you. And now it's free, it's this buildup of energy, and it gets diverted in these different routes. And man, the energy that is returned to you when you remember your value and you remember your worth and you remember that your life is worth living and not in this monotonous, addicted way, the energy that comes back to you is like your truest self. That energy is what will drive you to create what you were meant to create, to do what you were meant to do. Your potential is being suppressed and buried under your addictions. And I'll say it again, every time you let go, you level up. Every time you let go, those ice cubes, which are holding in your energy, begin to loosen and melt. And that energy, which is still you, is returned to you and is available to you. It's not imprisoned, you know? Who wants to live their life where I can only have a good time if there's drinking? I can only have a good time if I have my vape in my pocket. If I have my little Zim pouches in my pocket. I can only have a good time if I have weed with me. Why would we want to live in such a limiting lifestyle? And see, I don't think we necessarily do. What I think it is that we haven't yet developed, or maybe even don't believe that we can, create our own satisfaction, our own joy, our own fulfillment. So we've become dependent on all these things. So I want to say, I probably should have prefaced this in the beginning, I'm not an addiction counselor, obviously. I've never even really been deeply addicted to certain things. What I've been addicted to has all kind of seemed to naturally and gently leave me when I recognized it was no longer serving me. But I do want to say, if you're watching this and you're addicted to whatever you're addicted to, that energy, that energy that you put into that addiction of keeping the substance around or continuing to do it, and the cycle of guilt and then withdrawal and then doing it again and then guilt and then withdrawal and then doing it again, that is all energy that would be completely freed if you let go of that addiction. And when you let go of that addiction, that energy is going to return to you and you're going to feel more alive than you've ever been. You're going to realize that the energy and emotional payoff that you feel in letting go of that addiction is so much greater and so much more authentic and organic than the little short-lived emotional payoff you get from doing that thing that you're addicted to. So I wish you the power, the courage, the strength, the recognition to know that you have what it takes to let go of that thing that you know intuitionally isn't serving you. It's not good for you. I give my love and my hopes to you that you remember that you have the power to let go of that shit and to let the energy that belongs to you come back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did enjoy it, consider subscribing and leaving a like so that this video can get recommended to more people like you, because it really helps me out. So with that said, I will see you all later.